Welcome back, everyone, to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, coming all the way across the world in Thailand, courtesy of Ireland, Mr. Richard Tierney, mental health advocate, all-around good guy. Welcome on the show, sir.
Okay, Rashad, you're going to call me sir. We're going to have problems from the word go, okay?
Yeah.
I know you can't help it, but Rashad, or Sir Rashad, thank you very much for having me on your show. I love that your name, that the total randomness of nothing.
Yeah.
I was really intrigued by your name to come on board. And I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're having me on. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate you. So you've obviously, I read about you, and you did very well when it comes to the area of mental health and trauma, and you've created some 12-steps programs to assist people. Just can you give us some background as to how you got into that field and what led you to do this for work and living?
First of all, I want to stress that I'm not a mental health professional, and my sister is a mental health professional, and what they have to go through to become a mental health professional is profound. I do believe there's two forms of mental illness. I believe there's mental illness that can only be treated by mental health professionals, therapies, medication, and so on. And then there's mental disorders, and these are caused by a past trauma memory that intrudes upon their lives, and it rules and defines them so much that they develop these stresses and anxieties and depressions, these reactions to the event, and they're disorders. And I believe that disorders can be treated not only by mental health professionals, but also by holistic practitioners, life coaches, you name it, wherever who has some sort of solution for it, they can use these solutions. You can have someone who's got a mental disorder that goes and sees a therapist, also goes to a life coach and goes to a yoga instructor and goes to different holistic practitioners and does fitness.
Right.
All of these things help. And that's why I believe that. So I'm not a mental health professional.
Thanks for correcting me.
I like to suggest that I am a trauma memory recovery expert. And that's what I do. Right. I created a program for healing the trauma event.
So when people, because there's so much more emphasis and sensitivity that is taking place on people's mental well-being, I'm old enough to remember, and I'm not, I'm nowhere near advanced in life. I hope to be, for young people out there, that's a good thing, right? So, but it was, the old day was puts, hey, cry it off or, deal with it, so to speak. So when did you see the turning point that services were better suited for people actually to seek assistance? Because it's come a long way.
Yeah. I think the big mistake we made is we blocked God out of the equation. But back in the old days, 80 years ago, there was no such thing as mental disorders. There was a case of, if you had a problem, you prayed about it, you prayed for the other person. The Bible says that you pray for the other person, you wish them well, God takes your rat off you, and then he puts them in hell for all eternity, and you're not fighting the battle. So you give it to God, and you let it go, and you get peace of mind. But it's got a stage where God has got such a bad name that we automatically go for take the pill, cation, whatever it is, medicate our feelings, suppress our feelings, express emotions. And then we're stuck in this whole man-made solution that isn't working. And again, no offense against mental health professionals. I suffered a trauma when I was 12 years of age, and it destroyed me. It filled me with such shame and self-loathing. I wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. I felt both shame and my family, and I didn't want them to know what had happened, so I kept it quiet. 12-year-old child trying to hide this and keep it a secret and not let people see it, and it destroyed me. I was a child, and it was suddenly my innocence was taken from me, and I was just So then, as I grew up, I found that I was growing physically, but emotionally, I was still a 12-year-old child. So when I got to be 18, I was a 12-year-old child. When I got to be 25, I was a 12-year-old child, emotionally and mentally. So I get involved in relationships, and of course, I'm a 12-year-old child in a 25-year-old body trying to have a relationship with a 25-year-old woman, out of my depth completely, not capable of having a relationship on the same level, because emotionally I'd stopped growing emotionally and mentally. I think what happens with a lot of people who suffer with a past trauma. And I worked with two therapists who were the most loving, caring therapists. One was a woman, one was a man, over different periods, and they were phenomenally caring and empathetic. But I came to realize that they couldn't help me. The problem is we can't go into our past and heal the past, because it's in the past, it's not in the present. So they could only treat how I presented. So if I presented with depression or with stress or with anxiety, they would treat that. But that wasn't the problem. That was my solution. I would act out in stress or in depression or anxiety. And they were my coping skills. They were dysfunctional, they broke down. But mental health professionals would treat how I react and not the actual event. And science tells us that we have to treat the cause and not the effect. If we treat the effect, there can be no healing solution. It's like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound. You might get some temporary relief, but you're not healing the open wound. We have to deal with the past trauma memory. And since it didn't happen to the person I am today, I'm 64 years of age, Rashad. I'm sitting here with you on your podcast. You're in America, I'm in Thailand. We're talking about this today. I'm not a 12-year-old child from 52 years ago who suffered a trauma event. The photograph of me today and put it alongside a 12-year-old child, you'd see all the differences. I'm an old man with a beard. He's a 12-year-old child. My hair is all grey. His hair is curly brown hair. He's living with his parents in the family home in Ireland. He's got 5 siblings. Both my parents are dead. One of my siblings died of leukemia, and the family home is sold. And I'm living in Thailand and married with children. We're not the same person. So what happened to the child didn't happen to me. And that's kind of, I came to realize very quickly. I was carrying the pain of another, and I was carrying sympathy pains for that child. But it didn't happen to me. It wasn't any of my business. And I had to find some way of giving the details of the event back to my younger self so I could be free to live today.
Do you what techniques did you study to start overcoming trauma? Like a lot of people have been, is it yoga, is it Pilates, and then we'll talk, I think a little bit in depth. You said you've done 12 steps, and how many people do you help? So there's kind of some multiple questions within that same question.
Okay, well, so for me, I knew therapy wasn't working, and I didn't want to medicate myself. I found this feeling where you'd medicate just to suppress your emotions, but then when the tablet would wear off, it would all come kind of flushing back when you take your next tablet. I found it very soul destroying, and I wanted to get out of that thing and be able to live my life and feel my feelings, but feel my feelings in the present, not the feelings of a 12-year-old child 50 years ago. So the goal was to find some way of separating from my past. And I learned holistic practices like acupressure and tapping. Tapping's got T.R.O.N therapy, EFT. It's got about 5 different modalities to the tapping solution, so to speak. 2 chaps coined the tapping solution. Another chap coined T.R.O.N therapy. Another person coined EFT, and so on. But they're all the same kind of program, but done in different ways. Tap, and in the Bible, it talks about Jesus laid his hands on people. Now, I'm not faithful enough to lay my hands upon you, Rashford, but I can lay my hands upon me, and if I get you to copy what I do, your energy will shift in your body. It's all about our energy in our body. Christians call it the Holy Spirit. If we can get our energy flowing freely, then we feel much better. If it's all blocked up and it's all closed in, we're kind of locked up, and we're blocked off from the light, and we get darkness and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like mushrooms in the darkness. Only mushrooms can grow in that darkness. We can learn to get the energy flowing. Suddenly we're opening up the universe and all that's good, and we bring all the good in, and we can heal. So I had to find a way, and I found that acupressure and EFT combined was how I created my modality. So I would teach people, I would take them through energy healing. Donna Eden's a lovely woman to listen to on YouTube. It's all about energy healing. When you watch energy medicine, when you watch her videos and read her books and all that, it's the most profound stuff she teaches. And then EFT, and I did EFT courses and tapping courses, and I bought books on EFT and tapping, and video courses on EFT and tapping, and on acupressure. And out of all these, I created my own modality, which was this sequence I take clients to. It goes for 2 hours, where they actually tap in every part of the body and release all the energy from the energy points in your body, and you feel this shift. So at the end of the 2 hours, it's like you feel this weight off your shoulders, all the stress we carry in the shoulder, like the weight of the world on our shoulders. That stress leaves all the anxiety.
How did you come to 2 hours? How did you find out that was the proper window? Like, because that's a pretty long time. Not even, I'm not saying that in a negative manner, but like that, does that just how much time it takes for that to really like have an effect?
Well, I had one client who, in about 25 minutes, he went, I got it. So it's different for different people.
Right.
I went from about a 45-minute session with clients to expanding it a bit so we could take in some more modalities. I'm thinking we're trying to get rid of a trauma memory that maybe have ruled something for 10 or 20 years.
Right.
Suggest them that they can get rid of it in 5 minutes if they've suffered it for 30 years. It doesn't make sense to the brain. If you've been going to therapists and taking medication and going to hospitals, institutions for 30 years, and somebody comes along and says, I can get rid of that for you in 5 minutes.
Not happening.
Get out of my face, So,
right.
So in the beginning, I worked with clients about 40 minutes kind of work. But I had one man who was a Vietnam vet, and in the space of 20 minutes, he's kind of going, oh, glory God. Oh, thanks be to God, it's gone. Oh, thanks be to God. You could see everything about his whole persona changed. It had left his body completely. And he was like this guy, who was just floating on cloud nine, smiling, laughing, cheerfully, joyful, saying, it's gone. He went to bed that night, no medication, slept like a log. Up the next morning, kind of going, I feel 20 years younger. 75-year-old man, I feel 20 years younger. I feel like a man. Like it's mind-blowing. Then someone else may take 40 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour and a half. I've kind of created a program of 2 hours where really in-depth, we take it from our body. Now, the thing is, once you give it back to your younger self, it leaves your psyche. So once you give it and it leaves your body, it's gone. You can't take it back if you wanted to. because the details have left. The memories you'll always carry. So every memory you have in your memory bank, you're meant to have. We're human beings. We carry all our memories. We don't carry the details of it. So if you go back to your childhood and think about maybe you're in an egg and spoon race, you might remember being in an egg and spoon race when you're 4 years of age and in a sports day. But you don't remember the details of, was it rainy or was it perspiring in your face?
Right, right.
They're the details. But with trauma, we have the details. When we get the details away and they're gone. Someone asked me about what happened to my 12-year-old inner child. I'd say, what happened to him was terrible. It didn't happen to me. I don't remember. I don't have the details. And I know he suffered this trauma event. I feel deeply for him. But he's gone now. He's in God's mansion in the heavens, and he's safe there. And he's gone. And it's not about me. And I don't have anything to do with this. I'm able to leave it go. And that's the idea behind it. So I've developed this event, a 2-hour healing event. And at the end of the 2-hour event, you feel the shift. It's very hard to describe what happens, but you actually feel this weight leave your body. Like you've been carrying this whole weight on your shoulders, the weight of the world upon your shoulders. It's like an elephant sitting on your chest. You can't breathe, you're gasping for air, your anxiety and panic, and that leaves you. The hole in your soul that's been eating away at you for the last 30 years suddenly is gone.
How often do you recommend that people actually have to utilize that as much as they need to?
Just once.
Okay.
Once you get rid of the core event, all the others fall away like dominoes. You know, so if you got one core event, like if you're a veteran and you were in Iraq or Korea or Vietnam, and you get rid of that, all the things that have happened since then were based on this one core event. When the one core event is gone, you don't really need to necessarily do the rest. Now, some people have done 2 or 3 of these, but you really have to get the first one done. Then you do the 12-step program. You undo all the learned behavior of the PTSD or of depression. And once that's done, you're just a new person, like a new creation. It says in the Bible, it says become a new creation. That's literally what happens. You become a new creation.
So somebody comes up and they say they had a traumatic event, but there could also be, or they're dealing with, obviously you're not, you said yourself, you're not a mental health advocate, you're a trauma, breathing exercise, compartmentalizing the stressful situations in your life. I'm sure you have repeat customers though that, hey, maybe I suffer from this particular thing, but it's been a relief for me when I do this particular class.
The 12-step program is like any 12-step program. You can have continuous meetings of 12-step members, and you can work the program together and talk about things. And that happens on a regular basis.
Right.
Every week I meet some people and we go through the 12 steps. And we talk about how you are today. But once you've done the 12 steps, you make a decision that you're never a victim again. No matter what's happening in your life, no matter how bad it gets you, if you lose your job, your boss picks on you because you're out for 5 months, he's giving you grief, you're not a victim. It's life on life's terms, or life on God's terms. And you just choose never to be a victim. Now, you could be going through the hardship of dysfunctional, narcissistic neighbors and boss and the new government, and it could be the hardship for you. But your first line defense is, I'm not a victim.
Right. Yeah, that's powerful stuff.
And when you get to that space, nothing can harm you. When you decide you're not a victim, God has a plan. God has a plan for me, and all this crap I'm going through is going to make me stronger. And that's the idea behind it. So the first step of the program is, I'm not a victim. What happened in the past didn't happen to me. Once you can separate from the past and just live in these 24 hours, everything changes.
Have you ever written a book or anything? Do you have anything documented? Do you have any? And that's right, because it seems like an author that would, something written would be helping people out and be helpful.
Yeah, I have this healing event on Amazon Kindle. So the healing event is called How to Heal Any Past Trauma Memory. That's a 2-hour healing event. And then the Trauma Recovery Anonymous 12 steps are also on the Amazon Kindle platform and on other Kindle platforms, on other Kindle and book platforms. You can order it, print to order. So they're available basically in all bookstores, but the healing event is available on Amazon Kindle only.
Got it. I have to ask, how did you end up from Ireland to Thailand?
Well, because of my own trauma and trying to escape it, I did the geographical change. I went from using alcohol and gambling and self-harm and everything, medication and whatever. I decided I'd run away. So I did many of us who suffer do a geographical change. We leave our home and everything. We go somewhere completely far away as possible from the memory of the event or that location, that environment. So I went from Ireland to Thailand. I couldn't go.
What? Why Thailand in particular?
Well, I went to Australia first. And I did like Australia, but there's family there as well. I didn't want to be around anyone I knew. That was my thinking. And then I met someone in Australia. They said, "You got to go to Thailand. It's really beautiful. It's great for Western people. Very Westernized, very friendly to Western. They all speak English. The food is superb. Very cheap to live." So on the way back from Australia, I went to Thailand just to stop in for a little while. They had loads of 12-step groups all over Thailand, all Western.
Yeah.
So all Americans. Oh, most of them are Korean and Vietnam vets. I've run these 12-step groups. I get the same thing.
Okay.
America to go back to. So I met a really nice bunch of people and 12-step
Nice.
groups.
Nice.
And I went, I like this. I think I can live here. And I didn't know anyone, so I could kind of reinvent myself and start all over. So I came out here some 23, 24 years ago. And I just lived out here like in this. In the beginning, it was kind of dark. I felt I'd just kind of go through my money, die, and then someone can't find me dead, be over. Wouldn't be around family, no one could see the pain
Okay.
and all that kind of stuff. That kind of crazy stuff. And that was the early days. And eventually, after about 5 years, I decided I wanted to live. It was mind blowing. It was really a wonderful experience. Where I realized life is worth living. I want to find a way to live. I want to find a way to get rid of this completely, and find a way to live. And that was basically the start of it. And from then on, it was a case of I wanted to find a way, and what could I do? And I did all these online courses of holistic and NLP, and found these wonderful ideas. And then I got into, I'm a Roman Catholic by birth, and I became disillusioned with my faith, my denomination. I thought there were so many rules and regulations. I knew someone who committed suicide, and they wouldn't allow him to be buried in the normal grave, or the parents could have him in the church. And I was really opposed to this idea that you'd hold that against a person who couldn't take it. And so this kind of stuff. So I really kind of turned away from my faith. But then I got married, and I had children, and I wanted them to know God. I went down to local Catholic church here, and the priest gave me a book on Roman Catholicism for Dummies. That was a great book to read. And I realized this is all the reasons why I didn't want to be Roman Catholic. So then I brought them to a Protestant church. And I thought that'd be a good idea. And I met a Protestant priest who taught me all about the New Testament. It was really cool. But my children got treated like second-class citizens because they were half-caste and very racist. It really put me off that. And then I started bringing them to church. I just don't do church anymore now. I just read the Bible, and I believe in the miracles, performing miracles. So I've kind of combined Christianity into my program. I suggest to my clients that I don't believe that we can change, that we have faith filled enough to change water into wine.
Okay.
If I can give myself 5 minutes of peace of mind in this rat race,
Nice.
that for me is a miracle. And if I said to you, how about if you could give yourself 30 minutes freedom from your rat brain, would that be a miracle? Most clients kind of go, yeah.
Of course it would.
Okay, well then that's your first miracle. And then when you get rid of this and you give the past back to your younger self and it's gone from your psyche, is that a small miracle or a big miracle? They kind of go, that'd be the biggest miracle possible. Okay, well that's your second. And that's what you do. I teach them that they're performing miracles on themselves, being involved in any religion. By changing their attitude, their outer perspective, by doing all this energy work, they're performing miracles on themselves. And
so
they're healing themselves.
It's you hear so many things that are worldwide about. Do you have any certifications of any sorts? Did you take any particular courses that said, okay, because sometimes for people who are looking for help, they look for that behind somebody, and it I don't want to say it gives credibility, but maybe people are more willing to follow somebody. They say, okay, you went to this institution, you were certified by this board. Is that something that you have or have ever pursued?
I got my certifications in EFT and in tapping and acupressure and in this kind of stuff, but they're not like they're not like a mental health profession would have a board, and so they're not the professional boards. You know, it's like the 12 steps of AA. Two guys put the 12 steps of AA together. They weren't qualified therapists, and it saves millions of lives. The 12 step program. It's just me putting something together that works to help people recover, get rid of their past. It's not certified by any mental health board.
Correct.
So again, I can't use that as a not as a weapon, but to say yes, I am certified. I'm not
sometimes there's institutions that'll say, oh, you have.
Yeah, I understand that completely, and I understand someone who's been through the. I want to be careful with my words here. I worked with a client one time who had been with more than 24 therapists. Now, my understanding is if the first one or two don't work, the first 3 or 4 don't work, at some stage someone says, this isn't working. But to keep someone in this loop of going to another therapist, and they're all qualified and trained in the same field, and nobody can help this person. At some stage, we have to say, this isn't working.
Right.
And again,
no doubt.
Now, they're all qualified mental health professionals. And my sister's a mental health professional, and she's the most kind, caring, empathetic person. But if it's not working, it's not working.
It's just not working, right? At the end of the day.
Find different solutions.
Correct.
In the last 80 years, the mental health profession has been looking after disorders. And in the last 80 years, we have something like 1.5 billion people diagnosed with PTSD. There's not 1.5 billion people diagnosed with other disorders caused by past trauma memories. How can the numbers grow so gigantically in 80 years. I
Right.
mean, another 80 years, we're going to have half the world's population. In another 80 years, it's going to be three-quarters. But there doesn't seem to be anyone policing this. Or, how can you go from 0 to 1.5 billion in 80 years? That just,
There's
in
some
my
valid
head, it just
questions.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me how this can be seen as being the way forward when they're treating the effect and not the cause. Science tells us, and common sense, if we're treating the effect and not treating the cause, there'll never be a healing. But we're treating post-traumatic stress, and we're treating depression, and we're treating anxiety, we're treating all this the mental psychosis, which is caused by the trauma memory. If we get rid of the trauma memory, there's no longer any valid reason to maintain the post-traumatic stress, the anxiety, depression. That whole
Right.
area is no longer, it doesn't have any feet anymore. If you get the trauma memory and you give it back. So if young Rashad, who's 11 years old, suffered a trauma event, and you've been carrying that for the last 30 years, and you give it back to him and he took it away, and he stepped into the light and you felt a release from your body. Well, so all these diagnoses you were given by a mental health professional, there's no longer any reason for them because the cause of it's gone. If you break your leg and your leg's in crutches, and suddenly your leg gets better, you no longer need to walk
That
around
is
with
correct.
crutches. And that's the
That
idea.
is correct.
If you don't put the leg in a cast and you don't treat
Take the
leg,
proper steps to take care of it.
you're going to be on crutches forever unless you
No question.
treat.
And
So
you're
that's the
probably,
idea.
and the leg's not just going to not heal. It's going to be much significantly worse than.
Worse. So our minds and our hearts are getting significantly worse because we're not treating the cause. This thing is eating away at us on the inside. If I present with my trauma, people can't see how it's eating away at me. They can see how it manifests with my anxiety and my stress and my depression, but they can't see.
Did yours travel by word of mouth, or is it like, how do people find and locate your services when they need you?
I think it's very, this platform of podcasting has been a wonderful revelation. I never knew about this podcasting until recently, and I was just trying to find ways of how I could get myself out there, and I came across this podcast platform, and I've been interviewed by about 10 podcasts already. I've got another 10 podcasts lined up, and it's wonderful because I'm getting to meet now. Again, some podcasts only have maybe 30 or 40 viewers, some have maybe 1,000, but it's a start. It's a slow process because we're booking the system. The system
Right.
is you have post-traumatic stress, you have depression, you have anxiety.
For sure.
The whole world has invested in that model for so long. To suggest anything else is like you're crazy or you're loop the loop or so it's I know it's a very slow growth, but actually if I can I worked with 104 people already. If in another
Wow.
year, I worked with another 104 and suddenly that's in 6 years. It's not a lot of people in 6 years, But
right.
Again, it's 104 people more than it was 6 years
But there
ago.
has to be a lot of personal satisfaction too from just knowing that you've helped these people too.
But there's personal satisfaction in talking to you, Rashad, and telling you this solution. I mean, the
Right.
satisfaction I get now, explaining this to you, and you hearing it is profound. And then you share it with
Right.
your audience, and that's profound. But again, that chap, that person I spoke about who had the 25 therapists, we worked together. At the end of the session, they were in shock because they had invested so much in being post-traumatic stress disorder. They were part of fellowships and fraternities, and they had all this medication and all this social welfare support from the government. And they couldn't see themselves giving all that up to live a normal life. They hadn't worked in 20 years. They're dependent on the state, on all the social welfare. And suddenly here they are, free of the PTSD, to be a normal person. And it's too much of a stretch. It's almost like you said, no, so I can't go through this, and walked away. And you can't blame them.
Really?
You can't blame them because you're talking about bucking the system. If you've been out of work for 10 or 15 years, depending on the state, and suddenly you get this cure, forgive me for using that word, I don't like using the word cure, but this release from your past. And suddenly you step back into life without all those parachutes you had, all those support you had. Suddenly you have to let that one side and start again from scratch. In this world where it's so hard to get a job and get accommodation and pay, it's very demoralizing, frightening to take that step.
Unquestionably. So, and I think life is obviously, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I'm saying obviously people, and it's been proven that it has very detrimental effects on people's health, right? Whether it's your diet, whether it's weight gain, weight loss, susceptible to diseases and things like that, and illness and injury as well too, all by holding that in and not having a positive outlet for those type of things.
So everyone's just doing their best. Up until now, there hasn't been a solution. So they're dependent on the medical world to give them a solution. And they're told you've got post-traumatic stress, or you have depression, or you have anxiety, or you have some other psychosis. The root is medication and therapy and long-term therapy. And this is all that they know. They've known this for the last 80 years. This is all they've been taught and known. And the support groups do this, and the veterans do this, and they all do this, and everything's geared towards this one solution. Very hard for someone to step away from that. When you're in
Yeah.
this, when you're told black is white, and you've known black and white is for 20 years, it's very hard to simply kind of go, no, black is black.
It's very hard to see. Of course, of course.
So you have to. You've got to be very careful how we approach this. We have to understand people are where they are because that's where they are. It's just that's
Right.
the way it is. If I work with somebody who finds it hard to embrace this concept, that's where they are. I mean, it took me 59 years of my life to finally look for another solution.
Well, I'm glad you found it.
So, Rashid, if it takes you 30 years to find a solution, or that young man that I worked with had 25 therapists, if it takes him 10 years more, that's his journey.
But the point is, did you seek it, right? Did you never stop yearning for that information, right? And
yes, I think deep down I yearned for it, and then it got to a stage where I really sought it.
It's the nonstop satisfaction you have to have from you that this is not the answer that was in front of me that I was seeking, and I have to keep yearning and learning for that. And so that's beautiful work.
Every time I speak to anybody, whether yourself or some other podcast presenter or a client, and we get to do this stuff, it's like, why was I chosen for this wonderful gift to help another human being? And
right.
You must feel that when your podcast, when you do interviews and you give it to your audience 150 people, you're going to go, why am I blessed to be able to give this to 150 people? I mean,
right.
Everyone knows this. When you can help somebody in some way, and you're not getting something out of them, you're not taking advantage of them. The feeling is sheer joy.
For sure. Well, that's, it's the world would be a much better place, if they had an outlet for things that were impacting them and they could put it into, and they had a chance to be able to speak on it and have an outlet for it. A lot of bad things could be prevented for people, and things that happen in life by having conversations just like that you have with your clients and the processes that you put in place. And so I'm very grateful for the work that you do. And that's awesome. And you have a little bit of a nomad footprint in a way where you go, you're like, I was here, I went here to seek it here, and I ended up over here. And now I'm helping people at my proverbial third stop. And again, whatever else was on the way as well, too.
I think that the experience of 12-step is all about you carry the message. If you ever get involved in a 12-step program, the bottom line is you can't keep what you have without giving it away.
Right.
So that helps you then to get into the whole idea of helping another person.
For sure. So I would like to personally thank you, because how can people find you? I mean, I know you're halfway across the world from me, but where could people, if people wanted to find Richard Tierney, where would they find you?
Basically, my email is richard@traumarecoveryanonymous.com, or appointments, plural, at traumarecoveryanonymous.com.
Got it.
Send me an email. I'm also on LinkedIn, but my son is my IT guru,
okay.
and he's just completed his application to get to university. So now he's got some free time. He's going to design my website, design all my social media. I'm two thumbs. I'm not an old man, but when it comes to computers, I'm an old man. But
you're not a luddite though, right? You got the hot podcast head and everything, right?
But he's great. This is his the
nice.
His headphones, his choice. So again, I don't know what I'm doing. All I know is I have an email address. What I do know is this process. I know how to take someone to this event. I don't fix and save anybody. I'm teaching you to heal you.
Right, which is important, right? Because then there's other, and even just as you said for therapy, there may be certain things that, this may not, I can only do this for you if you're not willing to either A, put in the work that I'm giving you, or B, you may need additional help from outside of me.
Well, no, the thing is, you have to heal you. I can't heal you. And you'll know if you've been in therapy with a therapist for a disorder, again, 25 therapists, 15, 10 years with 15 therapists, at this stage, it doesn't work. Their best efforts, and nothing against mental health professionals. I mean, they're the most, to decide your career in life is going to be a police officer and keep the law, be a doctor and nurse, be a mental health professional and help people. There's no finer thing you can do to want to serve your life helping people. So I'm not
helping people
in any way, shape, or form. I just think the module that they have doesn't work. Not against the people. The people are a godsend.
Right.
For people with mental illness, they're the only people who can help them. That they're fantastic. But I think on this mental disorder business, I think they got the wrong module they use.
Well, I appreciate the work that you've done and the time that you've taken on the podcast of The Randomness of Nothing. This is why we do this show, to talk to people who have been on the off-beaten path in life and have interesting stories to tell and to be able to inspire others. And that's why I'm honored that you were willing to carve out some time to be able to be on the show.
Before I go, can I give one thing to your audiences?
Of course. Of course.
I learned this quite quickly, and it's been a godsend for me. Now, I'm talking about God an awful lot because I believe we have to claim miracles. I believe that the only way we get miracles is through some spiritual tradition that you find works for you. We don't have to join any church, any man-made religion, or any denomination. Just simply have a conversation and say, God, I'm having a crap day. Take this crap day off me and give me 10 minutes peace of mind. Or give me a miracle. Get rid of this thinking, the faulty feeling. Whatever it is, and you ask him to give that to you. So here it goes. We have 24 hours in our day.
Right.
8 hours of play, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of sleep. The 8 hours of play and the 8 hours of work is our time. We're alive, and our conscious mind is then we're in charge. The 8 hours of sleep is meant to be God's time. So when you go to bed at night time, get a pen and paper. You write down how your day was. You kind of go, okay, God, today was a really kind of crappy day and had some good things, but this is my whole day. Plus, I've been carrying my past. So the way I phrase it, I say, Lord God, I have been carrying this cross since the day I was born. And like your son Jesus, I faltered more than once. There's some good stuff on this cross, but there's a lot of doom and trauma and hatred and anger and revenge and justice and vengeance, hate and unhappiness. Please take this cross from me and give me peace of mind for the next 8 hours. And then I imagine I give this cross to God. I get into bed, close my eyes, smile on my face, I lay down, I sleep for about 8 hours. I wake up the next morning, I kind of go, okay, I'll take my cross back now. So I start at bed, I say, okay, God, I'm ready to take my cross back. And then I have this conversation where I hear God saying to me, okay, Richard, I've taken your old cross from you and I'm keeping it. This new cross is a 16-hour cross, only for the 16 hours in front of you. I want you to focus on today only. Forget the past. Don't think about it. Self-restraint of pen and tongue. Don't try and fix anybody. Don't try and save anybody. Don't get into conflict with anybody else. Just do 8 hours of work and 8 hours of play. It's the best of your ability. And at the end of your day, give me this cross back. I'll give you 8 hours sleep, and the next day will start again. And that's my conversation I have. And then when I go into my day, I'm only dealing with 16 hours. And then, so I start at 6 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night. And when I get to work, it's 9 a.m. 3 hours gone. I suddenly realize I've only got 13 hours left of my whole life. It's not fucking easy. Like before it was 64 years plus the next 20 years on top of these 16 hours. Now I've got just 13 hours left. And at lunchtime, it's like, God, I've only got 10 hours left. This is fucking easy, you know? And then afternoon break at 3 o'clock, I've only got 7 hours left. Holy baloney. It's like, this is just too easy. So
not a lot of...
So keep it to your 16 hours. Just keep it to your 16-hour day. Again, I don't try and fix or save anybody else. I don't intrude in anyone else's space. I don't try and do their job unless they ask me for help. I don't volunteer unless someone asks me for help. I don't get involved in politics. I don't watch politics anymore. I don't watch anything that would drive my mind crazy. I used to love these John Wick's movies, the hero killing all the baddies. And I'd watch this and suddenly there'd be all this anger and violence in me.
Yeah.
You know, so I just don't watch stuff that would trigger me or bring up
Right.
I don't get involved in what's happening in American politics or in Ukraine or in England or back in Ireland or anywhere. None of my business. There's 8 billion people in the world. I let them look after running the world. I'm going to look after my 16 hours. And my 16 hours now is speaking with Rashad on his podcast.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
This is exactly. My time now. And then after this, I'll go in to my wife and I'll chat with my wife and I'll have an early night. She's got a podcast in the morning at 8 a.m. And I'll just do 16 hours at a time. I'll talk to God at 10 p.m. Well, not at 11. It's past 10 p.m. So I'll have a chat with God for 5 minutes, give him my cross and say how great my day went because I finished it with Rashad for the last half an hour. And then I'll go to bed. And then I'll start tomorrow and start again on the music.
Well, that's a beautiful practice that you do, and the work that you do is very fascinating, very helpful. And the 104 people are probably very grateful that they got a chance to be able to speak and work with you. So I want to thank you for being on the T.R.O.N podcast. And I never really put a day like in my mind of how to break it down the way that you did. So I'm going to have to start stealing a little bit of your methods. That's pretty cool.
Thank you very much for that compliment. That's a lovely way to finish. Thank you, Rashad.
No, of course. That's what we're here on the T.R.O.N podcast. Thank you, Richard Tierney, for your time. Appreciate you, brother.